Please welcome Glen. Glen works at R&R Partners in Vegas and has been working with his partner Tony, who also went to school here on the Las Vegas campaign, both in the previous, both as the previous theme line, and then they personally did the entire new campaign, which is on TV now. So he has a lot of stuff to show you. Plus, he brought. So he's thinking maybe Vegas is not the place he wants to live the rest of his life. So maybe.
Well, I knew that going in.
Yeah. But anyway, I started to pin this up, and I left the rest behind the book. But this is his print book, current print book, not his student print book. But the reason why I put it up, and I thought it'd be interesting for you to see, is not just the work, but really the format is the same that you guys do. It's an 11 by 17 printout, maybe spiral bound. There's no reason to get too fancy.
No.
2 ads on 1 page, maybe a multimedia campaign on a microsite, and 17 pieces for everybody who went to portfolio night and brought 30 pieces. That's 12 pieces too many.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to cut some stuff out still,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. So anyway, take it away, Glen.
All right, I don't really where to go with this, but I guess just keep it loose, because if you guys have questions, I mean, I was sitting where you guys were 3 years ago, and honestly it doesn't feel like it. And I freelanced in Chicago at a couple different shops before Tony and I got hired out in Vegas. Wasn't planning on going to Vegas, but met my boss and actually contacted through Jeff, met him and interviewed him, went down to freelance for 2 weeks, and they hired us. And honestly, even then, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to Vegas, but I just really liked my boss, and I really liked his perspective. I liked his old work. I mean, that's the biggest thing, at least for when you guys are looking for jobs, is just looking for people, agencies that do good work, but not just that, find out who your CD is going to be, because if you don't like the work, are they going to make you do good work? If they're just clocking in 9 to 5 and checking out, or are they really trying to push the client? So that was the big key for me going down there. I might as well talk about how, as far as getting the job, I finished in, I think, September or something of that semester, and then I basically was looking for jobs. I mean, Chicago wasn't hiring much, but I just kind of kept this little notebook of who I was calling when. But I mean, you could see every day I was calling 4 or 5 people, and this was just to get in. This wasn't even, I knew they weren't hiring. I just wanted to get in and show my book, because at that time portfolio school was way smaller, so I maybe had 5-6 contacts through portfolio school. People were current creatives in Chicago. So you just got to be diligent, because honestly, people are busy. They're not going to call you back. Don't feel bad about it. Wait a week, call them back. You might hit them, they might not. And if they just keep not calling you back, then try to find somebody else there. Obviously, going through the creative recruiter is something you have to do, but definitely try to contact a CD or an ACD or somebody that you can get in front of, whether or not they know jobs are open. Just show your book to them, because if they like you, they're going to be the one that hands your book to the creative recruiter, and they're the ones that are going to say, I think this guy's good, why don't you check him out? Because those are people you're going to be working with. The creative recruiter, you're not going to be working with her, him, whatever. So you want to talk to a CD. If anybody has any questions, that's fine. Other than that, I guess I can just show some work, because it's probably more fun than listening to me talk anyway.
Yeah, we need to talk about the process, because you've got rough cuts too.
I do. I'm going to show, let's see.
Move this out a little bit.
Okay. I think I've got maybe 7 spots on here, or 7 or 8 to show. There's some what happens here stays here stuff. There's the new campaign, which I can talk about, and then a couple other little one-off spots. And then I can show you guys, we just shot the latest round of What Happens Here Stays Here basically last month, and we're in the process. We kind of have all the final edits done, but we haven't finished anything else, because there's a lot more that goes into it actually once you get the final cut done. So I can talk about that, but I'll show you the finished stuff first. These first 3, I'll just let all these 3, these are 3 What Happens Here Stays Here. The first 2 were from, I think, 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, and then the next one was from last year. I'm assuming that
Hey, that'll be 75.
It's usually $30.
I went to Vegas last weekend. Pretty crazy. Although it seemed like you were having a much better time.
So, 75?
Yep.
Nice job on the lawn today.
Will you aim, please? Nothing appears to be wrong.
There's nothing wrong? Okay. I don't understand how somebody can simply forget an entire week. Aren't you a specialist?
Love these parts now. We're like the Huns, you know, this is like all for the taking, all for the pillaging, but in a nice way.
You gotta think of me as your life coach. And for the fun parts.
This is my vacation too, you know? Don't drag me down.
Just saucy, I like Picante.
Hey, buddy! Listen to him. I'll get you upstairs. I know a guy.
So, obviously you guys are familiar with what happens here stays your campaign. And this is just, I mean, honestly, every year, this campaign's been going on for, I think this current year is the 5th year it's been going on. The first year, the spots were, I don't think anybody really thought they were good, but they made a kind of a splash mainly because the first spot was not allowed to run in the Super Bowl, and that honestly was the best thing that could possibly happen, because that got more people interested in seeing the spot than what would have happened if they had actually shown it. But then it's progressively, I think it's gotten a little bit better since, like 2 or 3 years ago, it was in CA. The first 2 spots from that were in one show last year. And now that it's kind of one of those deals, because it's like, you know, MasterCard, all these campaigns that are consistently going on, and it's just trying to keep coming up with new concepts, they keep feeding it, it's trying to push it so it's a new place. I mean, that last spot, that was the first time they ever allowed us to kind of step out of reality. Everything else was all kind of just situational stuff. And so it's just kind of pushing it, and it's not a bad thing to get, especially for like a young creative, to get in on a campaign that already exists, because you already know, people already kind of know the rules, but you're allowed to kind of push them because you haven't been in the, you know, in the routine with everybody else that's been doing them. So it kind of allows you to play with them a little bit. The next stuff on here, so what happens here stays here is kind of the Vegas branding campaign. That's what gets people, you know, this is what Vegas is about or whatever. But our client wanted to, basically, I can tell you a little bit of the client because it's super political, but basically LVCVA, which is the Las Vegas Visitor and Convention and Visitor Authority, every room that somebody stays in, there's a 4% tax on that goes to a public entity, which is LVCVA. So they represent literally every casino on the Strip, every hotel that's not on the Strip, every hotel in the whole county. And so you have to be super political. Like in that last spot, we shot at like 6 different locations because all these people want to see their properties represented. So that everybody loves what happens at all these casinos. They love what happens at Stays Here because it gets people excited about Vegas. And you know, after 9/11, that's kind of when what happens at Stays Here broke, and that really got people coming back to Vegas. But they spend so much money, they dump so much money in these hotels and all the stuff that goes in them, restaurants, shopping, dining, shows, all this stuff. There's so much money that they put into this. They want to see this stuff. They actually want to see it on screen, because most of this stuff, as you guys can see, there's only that last spot took place in Vegas. And I say out of, I mean, probably 15, 20 what happens or stays here spots that they've done, maybe like 4 of them actually have Vegas in them. And so these hotels want to see their casino, they want to see their restaurants on screen. So that was our challenge. We call it the product campaign, which is basically highlighting, it's more of an educational campaign as opposed to telling people what the experience of Vegas is. It's more of, this is what you can do here. This is educating people on shopping and dining and shows. And those are kind of our 3 main verticals, as they call them. So we came up with this campaign, which is called Your Vegas is Showing. And we like it because it kind of helps tie in a little bit with what happens here stays here, because while we're showing what you can do in Vegas, it's almost saying, the stuff that you can do in Vegas is so crazy. What are people going to think about you back home? Even if you literally were just eating, you know, the whole time, all you did was go to restaurants. People back home might think there's a little something else going on. So we did that. Randy Krallman shot these. I don't know if you guys, you know, kind of follow directors, but you should, because then you get to know who you want to work with. He did the ESPN stuff. There's some of the ESPN stuff. He did the berries and cream Starburst thing. I don't know if you guys remember that. He did that.